Hagenyo ba Aitsi'poyiiksi kanyo ba nita parat. Anama Clifford Menigans niska mansitan stains katsi Aitsi'poyiiksi tsochrat. Haugi gitkanak sumatsem kpaksi homkitapiwaka Aitsi'poyiiksi tokiawachskat. Haugi kanakka tsiks omupisteks. Ninamskeks. Haugi kannakaka kinniinawa mohkutukska. Haugi gitkanak sumatsem kpa kannaka kaskani maatstuki. Ikakakkuma pi kitapuutaksua. Ki Amoni takutumksi ina kitapitsiniki ne tumhtumatapa aanestsini maatstukisan Aitsi'poyiiksi. Amaka umkina nitkuyimmuka utsinihkaasimi ikorpiikini. Nitsitanikka numa tauksessawa taitaniwa amo Aitsi'poyiikskaan ki isknimaatstoksin. Ni toi kitakanest saatsiipia. Pinomo me saaksistkutuuta kerkita Aitsi'poyiiksi. Kitaksikkaksiippui. Ani tsitsinakstsi piikakaita piaksi. Imaksai pummuaisa eitsikska niitsaajepuja Aitsi'poyiikskai. Niin täänstä pi isknimaatstoksin. Ama Aitsi'päätä pio ohkanaa juhtsim. Ama Aitsi'päätä pio pihkanasksenim nii taapessop. Kitsi tsihtaaninnon. Oki mua kitsuki tsihtata kitajaa kaaksima kitajaa käistä matsaiskni maatsao. Kamitsi taapu kinnatuusi kitskni maatstoksin akannestsi. Sitaskskaatsiipa. Aaksiitsi maatekei Aitsi'poyiiksi. Itsitsinsiawa kanakkaatsiisi. Aama itsiwa tasksukteetsiniki kenekuan. Maate Aitsi'poyiuteetsinsi itskinäksi. Kenkeitä meekki muu Aitsi'poyiiksi. Ei tämä ei supuka Aitsi'poyiiksi. Tesu kohpukaa päätä piimaa. Ikkistaanesti kanaapiisti kikkitkanaskinua Shane Little Bear. Aitsi'poyiiksi. Täänstä amaitakka maate Aitsi'poyiuteetsinsi eepummua. Kenkeitä muhkee Aitsi'poyiiwa Aitsi'poyiiksi. Kenkkoukaa mahkumhkinautaan. Ajuhtuu Aitsi'päätä pio kitse tsihtaanin. Kamiittaa suki tsihtatuuki akannestsi. Kemuuksi maatumeessa muu aasita piiksi. Nitsitsi isksini maatsaaja. Kitauhsinnuun niin Aitsi'päätä pio siksi keitsitä pio oki kitsiipuhsinnuun. Matsina kitsinaapiksitaki niin skiaapi. Ihkannuh pehtsi kipäätä pioksinnuun niin skiaapi. Niin skiaapi uujaapi atsiniksin Aitsi'poyiikskaan. Annistskai ihtukanaskuna taapia niin Aitsi'päätä pio. Amo niin skiaapi aaksi umhkitapiiksi kiaaksi kitakseskuava niikseskai eetsinikia ei taapitsiniki seestämiinnaksinkiä. Keitpaapehkohsia utsinniksua. Kenneksai nohkseskuva. Kennekskai nohkatuhteeksemistä. Ni toumatapskseni maatstokissini anjain sotamhtumattapu. Oki maa moi nuhtu tumattapu maa kiikoen sitänestä kikata Aitsi'poyiiksi simpi. Tukskammiksi me kihkanauta kohpinnan. Tukskammiksi maatsinskaasi. Oki sitoansta ja kitakani puau. Oki nestu netsiksi keikkuan. Kikistua kiikueksi kiiksi kitakani puau. Oki nestu netsiksi kaakki. Netsenskaasi kitakitanstu. Oki kitakit sitä puuta kupi maa. Ituut satupi kitakitansta takakiistu. Kimaa akuhkatsitani. Me ei tuutsi saamai sakoi pitakitsista pipuutanikanistu. Oki nistu nitsiksi kaaki nitsenskaasi takakiistu. Onavas kuutsi sitä puutanista. Sitanista ja oki. Aamuksiakin tuu taatsi, mutta siellä sitsiinäksi pääksi piskutuukinnään ninnään niksistä. Skuhtakaa mataaksesta tukea kiueeksi, että takaa ninnään nohkatsitseni pummua itskinneeksi. Mä oon sitä tukea kiueeksi, aaksikaksi piimi akittani ja okki, siksikin mio. Kennää niksistä ei tuomata putu itsikatuumaan. Sitä vainasta ja oki aaksina Aitsi'poyiiksi panni. Ikske itseni kiipit sopa. Akitannastu muipiut sopan kan. Tukskästi sohtsi miski teitaps istatu muuja. Nästam skitstum ja no. Kenni naam Clifford esukattani. Itu taatsi miniksi kena sinne mua. Itani anhkahtsi aamu kituhta pohkanohpua. Itani äänestänä naam nuhta poomuohpin. Ina kohkiitsi niin teipujo. Kaikki tännestä vaan nuhkootsesta piituutsi. Tukskaasti aktuutunua muu tumhtuut sitä piihpimään steipuihpi. Siksi nuhkatsi tehtsiipää, utsi tupihpiaaksiipi naapuhtsi, amaa nenstä unaapiem, äänestämme samisopski. Niiksi uksuu koeksi utsi tapiimiksi, ustuavaa takaa äkitsa puhtsi sopaa kiistunnu nakitan jopa, hänjää kiistuu. Ustuakania, hänjää kiistuak. Ne itsinakaapaa juhkiitsi utumhta pupopi. Hänjää istamuhka nohpuu käännös teipujo. No katsotaan siis kohtakaa aamuksi jumhkita piiksi. Avania niistuak. Näkäämme nimattohka niimätänää numhkinaa. Awatsi kestonnatskaasi. Mä sitä iimätänään. Anhkumhkina itaniwa. Taki pitstuup ne Simpson. Jaksta muhka nohkuuni matsohvaa niistuak. Niiksini takkeeksi aaksi kippäästonnatskaasi sanniita noita vaani. Niistuak myself. Kennei niin tsiua Aitsi'poyiiksi on ihtoutunuutsi jopa niin teipujopi. Oki käämäinen nohtsikki muu. Tans täskseni maatstuhkihpi. Maataa kanihpaa niistuni tsiitsi tännes taapasskseni maatstuhki. Ikakäetäpi niitä vaastamatskohtuumia niin teipujopi. Niin maataa kohpi tee iipjuhspa. Niin taaksikakani anhkan niistu, niin nuhkanesti iisuki, nahkanesti maatstuhkissa. Kenne niin taanest suki, ja miksi sitä muhpuukää siitsim aasitappi. Sitten hukana vahtaan sitä ja saakin tumhtah siitsipua aamuikään sitä maatsuhpua. It hukana vahtaan niin. Maatukskamiita niyo, niin taksaa pian stuup aanio. I like it because we're learning to talk in sentences. Learning the colors and animals and everything, numbers, is great. But my parents get a real kick out of me when I come home and I say, "Hoki, chanita piwa, kitaksiki stua." And the parents are blown away. Their child is talking to them in a sentence. So that gives them a sense of accomplishment. It gives them that confidence. Now, I'm going to talk about confidence for a minute here. When that class first came in, what Aitsi'poyiiksi, niin Aitsi'poyiiksi Aitsi'poyiiksi. 4 of them girls had their hoods on. 2 of them, you could barely hear them when they said their names. So in time, I found what their interests were. And I started to talk to them, and I told them the power of being a Blackfoot woman. The power of being a Blackfoot woman is a very powerful place to be. And how the Buffalo women start off our Sundance to bless our camp, our grounds that we're about to all enter in camp. How the women don't have to sweat because us men don't have that cleansing way about us, so we have to sweat just so we can sit with the woman in a ceremony. That is the power of a woman. Once we began to establish these things, the hoods slowly came off. I never once told them to take them off. Eventually, the hoods came off. By the 5th class, one of them was teasing me. So that, that's a good sign. Akita institutio pa aka akohsipuutsi pistoissana. Ma sitapio. Estinaye iaksimaya. Ki pahtsikanatapi sa sukaninixis pahtsikanatapi si kitakitasi tumua. Taka ikisamita pu takiwa nixista daycare. Ya muksi ikaketapia ekipu tsiputua puukawa. Anniksi ekimmatkuimmiksi ekipitsipuutua ja no kunnan. Ikaketapia no tsipuutua ja wa. Utomattuksi niksisti tukane isäänestumia. Muksi stannataketapia. Utsiniitaksa niksista ki ikaketapia ania kanapesi sitsitassi tumuk. Teitoktannistsimuksi. So my mother talked about praising the child. Praising the child is very critical to building that self-confidence and that awareness of themselves. So I used her teachings to help remove the hoods of these young girls and to help them establish some pride in who they are. And we did things like talking about clan systems, like Verna came in, talked about the clans, and we saw the eyes light up. Which great chief were they aligned to, where they come from? Some of them didn't know. So once we established the real person, who they were, the confidence grew, and I didn't have one student on the phone. I didn't have one student doodling. I never even had to tell them to get off their phones. They were all engaged because we were talking Blackfoot to each other in sentences. They even learned the names of the towns, and they laughed because our towns were named after the initial shopkeeper. Like Gleason is called Suchkitsi, and they really laughed about that. That's how they saw the first storekeeper. Clooney, Sixistui. The guy had a big old black mustache. Nameka, Inamachka. It's supposed to be Inamachka, but we're all colonized because we all say Nameka now. But that's the way we named places. So when we talked about that, one of the students told her mom, Kitaksikihpa. And her mom answered in English, I'm going to go to Strathmore. And her daughter said, Kita po umhaksikuki. And her mom looked at her, huh? This girl was teaching her mom. Her mom didn't know. So she taught her mom the names of these towns, the border towns. And she used it by conversational Blackfoot methodology. So going back to ama Aitsi'poyiiksi Aitsi'poyiiksi. His name was Morris Brass. He took me as a son, and he taught me quite a bit about. And he was an old rancher, old farmer, no nonsense. One of those guys, no need to say 20 words when you can just say one. That was him. But he was full of good wisdom. And those teachings about using that conversation, that stuck with me. So we used those and we talked about, and that's the other thing. I told them I do not want any slang in our classroom. We're not going to take shortcuts. Because the slang is tsima kya kitapo. But the real way is tsima kita kitapo. Or I told them a real bad slang we have is kitamatsin. And that young girl, even to the last day, corrected me. I called her the baby of our class. But she was the hardest worker. And I was wrapping something up and she was walking out. And I just said, Kitamatsin. And she just stopped. And she just said, Kita matsino. And I took it and I laughed. And I said, thank you. There are days where the student is going to become the teacher. And to be an effective teacher, you have to allow that to happen. You have to allow yourself to be in a position to be corrected. Leave your ego at the door. Teachers should not carry their ego into the classroom, because one of my teachers when I was younger always made it a point that it's not about you. It's about those people that you're sharing whatever you learned. You're just passing the knowledge on. That's why we say knowledge keeper. You're just keeping that knowledge until it's ready to be shared. Ama sitapiwa tamsuuksi piimaa. Itanio ninna maata ike Aitsi'poi. Kinaaniksis nuhkatsua Aitsi'poi. Naaks nuhkassaaka vaansti weeksi onuokimmi weeksi itaniwa. Akuus tamskiista pajaa piipuika kärkitsistutspua. She got frustrated and told me might as well move to town. And that's what sparked his dad. And he said, ever since then, my dad, he tells his mom, don't talk English to me anymore. So it started, and at that same time, he began this class. And this guy was battling with his addictions when he started the class. And at the graduation, he mentioned one word that I taught them, and I told them, this is a daily word. Supuyahkan. What is your aim for today? Danstas kuhtaka kitsitapi minnuniksi esupuyahkaya. Piitsjuksipuhkia kiisa itesupuyahkai. Anye niitsupuyapsia. We had to get them to understand that our ways were built on survival. Everything pointed to survival. Our clan system, our clan camps, our military that camped around the outer area of our territory. All survival. So our words were direct and to the point. I've always said our language is very absolute. Ama napi kwan akanyo, well, for lack of a better word. But there's no such thing in our language as saying for lack of a better word, because every word is on point. Every word is distinct. So when the students went home, a young couple, one of the girls, her and her husband and their baby went to Strathmore. And an old timer walked out of the store. They both didn't know who it was, but the old man looked at them and said, okay, takaki istua. And the girl answered him, okay, nistua itanistua. And she told him, nistua nitsiksikaki. Sipenchkiaki. Takakiksist. And she mentioned takakin. Kimo kinapi. And she told him that he didn't understand. And that old man just tapped that guy with a cane, her husband. And she told him, Astamatzis. And he walked away. Teach him. So this girl said on her way home, she kind of cried. And she couldn't wait to tell her parents of this proud moment. She said, if I had just sat there learning numbers and colors, I may not have had that opportunity to converse with this old timer, let alone know what he was saying. So again, I'll say, this is not me. This is not about me. This is about my teachers. And I can talk about my teachers all day. I had great teachers. I had many, many good people with big hearts who took me as their own child. And it's tough because we're losing them. We're losing our elders. It took me a long time to get over the loss of my traditional dad, Norbert. Norbert Fox was one of my best teachers. You know, late Chris Strangenwolf and Susan were really good teachers. late Russell Wright and Julia Wright, those were really awesome teachers. I had teachers like that, so I was lucky. So that's why I'm up here. It's because of them that I'm standing here and telling you. But the biggest, as the kids say, shout out, but the biggest thank you is to my parents. I was telling our chief here and our elder, my other adopted parent, Wilton, that my dad told my mother when I was born, when he held me, he told my mother, "Amai, Aitsi'poyiiksi. Ako kitooksisawatsi maahsiksi." This one we will just speak Blackfoot to so he can visit with his grandparents. So I thank them for that. But you know, our whole family speaks. And I like that we can text each other in Blackfoot. And I remember that short time on the rodeo trail, I was with a Métis and a Cree guy. We're sharing a room. And I was out fast asleep. And I started talking in my sleep. The two of them sat up hoping they were going to hear something good. But I spoke in Blackfoot in my sleep, and it really got them mad because they couldn't, and no gossip for the next day. But you know, our language, as we're told from early on, it's a gift from the Creator. Aitsi'poyiiksi our way of life. There are ways that we transfer knowledge. There was a story I was told when I was a young boy about one of our warriors who wanted to make a name for himself and went down to the Crow camp and took their war chief's shield. And that we were going to Albuquerque at that time, our first time going to the Gathering of Nations powwow. And at that time, word songs were all the rage. And we got caught up in it, I'll admit. I don't sing them anymore, but we got caught up in that. So we made a song about that. And the funny thing was, this song was about going to the Crow camp, taking the war chief's shield. And we had a crow singing with us. Woo, woo. He didn't even know that song was about stealing his war chief's song. And that song, just like in the old days when they told a story, they'd sing you a song, and the story behind the song. So we used that as a victory song with old Blackfoot Crossing. But after a while, we just sang it straight without the words. So every now and then we'll still sing it. My teachers are all over this room. So I have to be real careful how I talk about our ways. But our ways, ni tapi tami peta piusin. It's a very good way of life. It's an enjoyable way of life. And that's how our people survived. Going back to Conversational Blackfoot, as soon as I sat down, atsaki noch kanas da popi. Matsaka kukikisto. Otsa noch kanas siwa stachtupamo. And on and on. That's what you need to teach. You teach the greetings. You teach the names. You teach actions. Where are you going? What are you doing? What are you going to eat? Aitsi'poyiiksi. We always have to include uyapi. We always have to include food because it's part of our culture. I remember one of my students, he's a really big guy. And when we ordered jackets, it was 5X. And one of the other kids overheard him. He was trying to tell me, my size is 5X. And that other kid heard him, so. Then he kind of looked at him and said, well, our teacher said food's a big part of our culture. Following our ways. And I taught him how to say, I am walking in the path of our way of life. I told him, now, the other thing, and I think a lot of you agree with me, is that not enough people understand that the Sundance is for everybody. And why I say that is because I told the students, this year, come to my camp. Or find a relative's camp, visit. And all evening you're gonna hear laughs. You're gonna eat. You're gonna have real good visits. You're gonna hear music, good traditional sounds of our people. So they're all excited to come, and they're gonna tell their parents. See, they're teaching their parents now. Amoksi awanya kanot kay sama asitapya. Eka kistu taksu isa itawan siniok sistokiak kunita pumahkop niknitsita puhpinna. So this girl is taking her mother to the Sundance grounds, taking her mother to the river, taking her mother all over the reserve to the different places we went. And they even know now the proper way to offer tobacco. See, even those basics like that, it was such a big thing for them. And I taught them how to say, Ayoksakum metapia, nochkutsitamoy pistachkan, nochkutsatamoki. That phrase, that sentence, was foreign to them until we talked about the words and the concept of those words. And what is ksachkum meitapi? We talked about that. What is suyitapi? Spumitapi? All those Aitsi'poyiiksi, all these different terminologies to string them into a sentence. To say I'm going to the place they call fat belly, big belly, sukhkitsi. Late Narcissus got a kick out of that word. Kitumkhtu teipi sukhkitsi. Every time. Didn't matter where we were, Narcissus would throw that at me. But you know, that's how it is though. Itaya na kipa Aitsi'poyiiksi. We highlight our words when we talk like that. like that little rivalry, trash talking. You see it in hand games. Hand games is where you see it a lot. And it's fun. It makes it enjoyable. If you get mad, you're defeated. Go home. So I encourage you all to use that and talk to your students as if you were talking to somebody who's been talking for a while. And repeat, repeat, repeat. Because every morning we start off with that greeting. I am a Blackfoot man. I am a Blackfoot woman. My name is, who are you? And they go around the room every morning. So we went to Parks Canada office in Banff to talk about career opportunities out there. And I told the students to introduce themselves. I didn't ask them what to say. I didn't tell them what to say. But they introduced themselves all like that. They all spoke in full Blackfoot. Then they translated for that lady. And that lady was pretty blown away by these kids because they all greeted her like they had been speaking for years. And I was really impressed. I had a lump in my throat, I'll be honest about that. I didn't expect it. But that's what it is when you imprint. When they take it. White folks will say when you take it to heart, kisnura kanyo pa itaw kinatu. Otamo kinatu ke matakaatstup. We don't lose it once we take it to heart. But imprint, repeat, repeat, repeat. Like a lot of times, I enjoy emceeing with these gentlemen. I see a lot of your local MCs and the talking with them. Gee, and there's my brother. I haven't seen that guy in a long time. Good to see you, Napi. Kakit tasksawat stuputsin hikasim. Kakukit sinwa udakski. Kumaki wa aksakakani kitanas taksinak. Kiamay naskanin nan ni tain chikatsi umkapiaki. Matakut sa tasiwa. How are you going to get mad at your dear old grandmother for calling you a big girl? You can't. So that's how our language is, though. And old people, they can get away with anything. They can call you whatever they want. But that's our language. Conversational Blackfoot. It strikes up a conversation. Imagine if it was just dull, you'll see it. Then take a guy sa pizza, okay, and keep walking. No conversation. But ours is a colorful culture. Oh, and every now and then you take a little shot. Spices it up. And that's all part of your language too. You know, like one time I was emceeing in Bikani, and I was a victim of a drive-by. I got heck from somebody unexpectedly, and she walked up. I couldn't even respond. Later on, I just let it go. But it was a difference of something that was misunderstood. And that's all I'll say about it. The world went on, you know. And Martin just said, we were outside having a smoke. Snadafi MC. Our language is funny. Our language is descriptive. You know, and we're all related to one another in one way or another. Ike pisata pe ksu kuatsiyo. I got family in Brockett from my dad's side. And kena pikani amskapi pikani. So you have to tread carefully if you want to pair up. Tell that to the young folks. But you know, ni chipeta POP, it's descriptive. And there was an old man who couldn't say Eldon, but he didn't know my Blackfoot name. So he was emceeing a powwow, and I was like 15. We had a drum group set up, and right after we sang, he said, kita yuhtuawa spitena. He's called me tall man. So there's all those words that describe who we are. And I told my students, if you don't have a name, can I just call you the way I see you? A couple of them said no. They said, because you're always telling jokes and we never know when you're serious. Who knows what name I'll end up with. So, but I was kidding with them. And I brought in some elders. We had a Christmas dinner. And the ones without names got their names. And then they each got a blanket. I told them, this blanket, you have to take this with you, especially when we're going to go pray somewhere. So I always joked with them, whenever we're going to go to the river to pray or any other place, Sundance Camp, the grounds, I used to tease them and say, all right, take your blankets off your windows. We're going to go pray at the river. And that one just whispered, how did he know? She had it on her bedroom window. But these are things, basics that we have to teach. And you know, they take pride in it once they know their responsibility. Sitawan staya iskuhtaka ni tapawaksoki ni tapawakistuyimyoki ni tapawaki putu tsiyopa kanakka tsis. Mo sustuyimyoki itat itomatapitsini putu tspi skuhtaka. In the old days, we were in age grade societies from the age of 4, is what late Russell Wright taught me, and other elders have since told me that. So your responsibilities grew and grew. So we kind of used that model of slowly increasing responsibility. You slowly give them a little more responsibility and more teachings that come with that responsibility. Ni tapaya ksimayaw oki makukutsista psukutsista piitsiikya. Aitsi'poyiiksi no. Akista pää isuks ksinimia. Aksikkine Aitsi'poyiiksi. They will slowly get used to talking in our language. Ama ikatsipistitapiyop. Ni teinaks si Aitsi'poyiiksi pinnan paskaan. You know, I'm not the most tanned guy on the reserve, but Aitsi'poyiiksi pinnan Aitsi'poyiiksi pinnan Aitsi'poyiiksi tohpaksesta tukimaamannan. Tu tapatsipoyi tanastini takkaanan. Takatsam naapi kansna taisuki Aitsi'poyiiksi. But you can't get mad, you know. We always have to pay back later. As an MC, you get to take your shots, take note. As Floyd knows. You know, our way of life, amuksi sitapia. Kita kitpipu tuaya Kita sitä aamuiseksi katsak. Akit siitä pianista ja akstami taapsuksi katsumme. Sitten sitä maa sitä pio. Okei. Aamis takeaway-piksistä kioop. Kistu akotu itse katsas. Kita kee kaini pano. Aki tohkaneeksi niin pio. Ei tutu mitoutu. Ei tsikskane kautta piksen matsatavaakasima. I gave the student that one responsibility of opening the door every morning. I gave him the key. This guy was the first one there, and he'd make a pot of coffee every morning. But I taught him how to say it in Blackfoot. Kitum hupstakat. I entrust you with this. I'm counting on you. So this boy took it to heart. And when we had our grad, this guy would text me every night, weekends, weekdays, sometimes 11 o'clock. He never missed an assignment. And he told me at the grad, after his speech, I walked past him as I was coming back to the mic, and his voice was shaking, and he said, "I'm going to miss you." And God, that hit me. I almost couldn't talk right away because this is the guy who was battling addictions. And he said in his speech, the word "Aitsi'poyiiksi" helped him when he'd say it every morning. My Aitsi'poyiiksi is to stay away from my addictions. So our words are pretty powerful. Aitsi'poyiiksi. Mo akite ita kanista akite ka keita kanista wa Aitsi'poyiiksi. Nitsika ni akite akista pääkitä ikitä itsimia. Akitsikita ipuja. Otamikita ipuisa. Anja ye. Essuhtaka kuhkatsipuuta vastamatskotumme. And I told them that's the formula for our way of life. You teach, you repeat. And once it's in you take it to your heart. You are now on your way to being a future knowledge keeper. And they all sat up straight when I said that. Because that's their goal, is to someday teach the culture and the language. So I don't know how much time I got. Where's the MC? I think they're giving me sign language in Estonia. It's not black. Just kidding. Sabat kita kinestwa amukseskini mats tukiksi. Tsika nikama ikohpikini kitaksum spiksataya. Ayum spiksit. You know that your patience will go through tests, but don't lose it. And we have to continue to keep that patience, no matter what. How would you like it if you're trying to learn from somebody and they lost their temper with you all because you asked a question? Well, that's going to discourage you. So you always put yourself in that student's position. Always. What would I like to learn? How would I like it to be taught to me? Well, with a respectful manner. But that's the way our culture is. Otumapa isutsiopa. Ipitawa kopopi. Kiakeso kanina pikueks chew the fat. Kakistunnon, kenne ni tapa umoi piutsiopa. Ki ama puukawa. Tuks kesti kiakeinaksin chiktua. Ikani nama anastawa aastukumi. Nam Leo Pridian man. So another one of my teachers, he said, Aamuksi niskuiksi taikitakseni maatsa ja asta mikka maaksi si tukskamniksi. Ani täskä kumata pinchiki. Esukit sukeipia. Ni tekki näskäästui. Taksina kitaa peinchkutua ja tsitoansta ja naahsut sen diksen. Tsitsi next siipi. Ei sitä pehpii naahsut aitsi'poyiiksi pianniaksika kitspii. Takas kohtakaa kiiks maatoutakpii. Maate aitsi'poyiiksi pianni. Anni ei. Hani nuhkutsikkiaka tai nissohkujiksi. Niin skääpi. So, late Leo Pridian man, who was a long-time chief, also said, one of the best ways to teach and to keep attention is you throw a song in there once in a while and say, this was my grandfather's song, this was so-and-so's song. Because every now and then, like herding cats, those little kids will kind of take off in one direction, but he'd sing a song and bring them back. Because there's a song for everything in our way of life. So all these methods of teaching are ways that were passed on to me, and it's my honor to pass it on to the rest of you, whether you're a teacher or a knowledge keeper. So I thank you all for listening today. And